Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Lewis Hamilton has said that if Mercedes are to win a race this season, they will have to have some good fortune on their sides, saying that Red Bull are pretty much unbeatable right now, and that the Singapore Grand Prix, despite suiting their car on paper, actually might not suit their car as well as some believe. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Just after the Monza Grand Prix finish, we see Perez in the Red Bull here testing out the new tyres for next season. Everyone, of course, is looking pretty much at this point towards next year's car, as I'm sure Red Bull are, given they've got everything locked up at this point and guaranteed both championships effectively. Couple of news updates. Firstly, this from Haas, bringing Mark Slade. Some of you guys may know this name. Legendary Formula 1 kind of a trackside engineer, actually, for Kimi Räikkönen with McLaren. And even, I believe, maybe before Kimi, he was with maybe Mika Häkkinen. Not exactly sure. But he's returning and will run with Kevin Magnussen's car from the Singapore Grand Prix onwards. The question really is, who's going to be alongside Magnussen in next year's Haas? Is it going to be Mick Schumacher? Is it going to be potentially Nico Hülkenberg? Then actually I'll just mention first of all, because apparently another Nico Hülkenberg is on the cards here, with him driving for pretty much everyone, and he might be in the Haas next year, which, you know, to me, I'm not really convinced about that decision if they do decide to make it, because Mick Schumacher, I think, is not like he's come good necessarily, but I don't know, he's driving better and better. I think he deserves a shot at least somewhere in Formula 1. I'd be surprised if they make a move here, which seems like, you know, seems like a move that kind of screams lack of ambition to me. If they do get Hülkenberg, that might be a bit of a hot take, but yeah, definitely intrigued to your thoughts on that one. The other question mark right now is what exactly is going on with Colton Herta, because still Alpine want to get Gasly, and AlphaTauri want Colton Herta from IndyCar, an American driver, if they are to effectively allow Gasly to go. Whether he gets the super license he needs, he doesn't have the points for it, but a lot might argue that really IndyCar is highly underrated in that regard. Like, you know, so it's a bit of an interesting situation. We'll see how it goes, but apparently he's actually going to be able to test an Alpine car this month, not in like a free practice session, but I think maybe at some sort of test session in Hockenheim or something, so that will be rather interesting as well, kind of amid the whole Red Bull interest to get him into Formula 1. This also, apparently the new deal with Monaco has been determined. I know a lot of people have been hoping that Monaco's maybe track layout in future might be changed. There are some alterations they could make to the street circuit to make it better with these newer cars, but yes, apparently it still will be on the F1 calendar for a few more years to come. There was a question when we went to Monaco this year whether that deal would go through. Apparently it is. But of course, speaking of street races, really, we saw back in Monaco, it was Sergio Perez that won with the Red Bull, and generally on the street track so far, Baku and Monaco especially, Mercedes have rather struggled with the surface of the track. They've been pretty good so far, let's say, you know, Budapest, for example, and Zandvoort most certainly, on the higher downforce circuits, but these are circuits that are purpose-built, right? These are actual tracks rather than street circuits effectively that are converted, where the paving and the road is what can be quite bumpy and doesn't seem to suit the Mercedes particularly well. That could be a key issue when they get to Singapore. But yeah, 2 years in a row, Verstappen's dominated the triple header, and of course looks set now to take the championship, and he also may well take the record for the most wins in a season. Kind of remarkable how close he is here, because Schumacher, Vettel, of course, some of these were set in seasons where they were less races, so I think there's a little bit of, you know, an arbitrary feeling here. And even Hamilton, right, 11 races he won, I believe, in 2020 with the W11, but that season there was only, 17 races. I think he only raced 16 because he was unwell for, I think it was the Sakir Grand Prix. So Hamilton had 11 out of 16 that year, and I think, 2 of those were also won by Bottas maybe. So it's interesting, right, because Verstappen's domination this season has been kind of remarkable when you look at even, like, Hamilton dominated for several years, but in fairness, if you look back at some of those seasons, you know, Vettel and Ferrari were pretty solid for at least half the season. Like, it looks like domination on paper, but the reality is that Hamilton didn't dominate those seasons quite how Verstappen has done over the last few races, for maybe various reasons, right? And there's 6 races to go, so Verstappen is odds-on favourite to demolish the record of wins in a single season that currently stands with Schumacher and Vettel. And of course, Vettel also holds the record of 9 wins in a row at the end of his 2013 season in the Red Bull, so maybe Verstappen can break that record as well. I think he can get, 11 in a row maybe, if he wins everything for now to the end of the year. So yes, big times ahead. Speaking of the Red Bull, apparently that Red Bull 18 has lost 20 kilograms since the start of the season, worth almost a whole second in terms of performance. The rumour in the paddock is that the Red Bull is now only about 2 or 5 kilograms over the minimum weight, so the Ferrari weight advantage they had is now gone. And apparently we also heard the rumours they were considering the option of bringing in a lightweight chassis. That I think even Christian Horner this weekend said that was nonsense, but you know, I imagine that's going to come next season in 2023 to reduce the weight even even further. I think they're kind of not doing this anymore because, well, the competition was alarmed by it, right, for budget cap reasons. I think it was Mattia Bonotto said that, like, look, there's no way they can do this within the budget cap restrictions, and they're saying, well, we probably don't need to bring it anyway because we're dominating it anyway. And apparently they've looked to develop their car to increase the working window instead of simply looking for more downforce, which was kind of an issue in the early part of the season where Red Bull weren't always good at every circuit they turned up to. Nowadays it kind of seems like they are. So, I mean, yeah, they've got everything locked up at this point. The question is, can Mercedes win a race? Ferrari have done so, but their challenges, of course, fallen away. Mercedes are looking to get a race win on the board at the very least to keep up their records of winning a race in every season since 2011. Now, Hamilton is still confident that it's probably around the corner, but like, I mean, yeah, I imagine he's having a difficult time believing it to a certain extent just because of the dominance of the Red Bull are shown. I mean, Max Verstappen could win from literally any position. Like, I mean, yeah, he started P7 and was P1 within about like 12 or 13 laps back in Monza. Like, would he have won from 20th on the grid in Monza? I honestly think it's pretty possible, right? It seemed pretty plausible that might have been the case. So, I mean, yeah, crazy scenes, but it seems like the way it is right now. So, and of course, like, there's probably no more penalties for Verstappen to come, so it's going to be a tough time beating him, right? And that's the thing that Hamilton admits here. Like, it's going to take some real doing to beat Red Bull. Performance-wise, they are ahead of everyone. This is what Hamilton has to say. We have to be realistic. The Red Bull is almost unbeatable, saying, yes, the car's very good, but obviously that combination with Verstappen right now is incredibly difficult to stop. And as he goes on to say, it's going to take some real doing to beat that car. Performance-wise, they are fully ahead of everyone. And going on to clarify, we haven't caught them and we won't be catching them, right? We don't have the upgrades coming to overtake them, so it's going to take some fortune going our way. So I think that's the thing, really. They do believe there's upgrades to come. I think Mercedes have still said there is things in the pipeline they're going to be working on here. But like, I think, yeah, it's not going to be enough to match the Red Bull, right? Maybe if Mercedes wanted to, they could put all of their development resources, all of their people into bringing parts of this year's car to try and win a race. But that's not really the way to do it, right? You've got to think about next year's car and actually making sure next year's car is more competitive than this year's car. I think they're still going to bring some upgrades, as apparently are even Red Bull. He might bring one or two things to Singapore. But Hamilton's like, look, we're probably not going to have the upgrades to be a faster car on track, and especially in qualifying. So then it's going to take some fortune with either safety cars going their way or, damage, or, like it was in, for example, Silverstone, right, where Verstappen got the underfloor damage. Otherwise, he probably would have won that race as well. So as he says, like, it's not impossible we can win because we potentially could have beaten them in Zandvoort and potentially Budapest as well. But yeah, as things turned out, of course, wasn't the case. And really what hurts them, I think, here is the qualifying pace, because the fact of the matter is the Ferraris are pretty bad now in race pace, but they're still good in qualifying. So the Mercedes still tend to start, P5, P6 on a normal qualifying day, which means that by the time they're maybe slightly superior race pace to Ferrari is enough to get them into third and fourth. I mean, Perez, of course, has been a bit of a wild card lately where he starts, but like, by the time Mercedes even get into a competitive position in the race, Verstappen's already, 10, 15 seconds up the road, and he's not going to be beaten from there. So we talked about some circuits coming up that might suit the Mercedes better than some others. Maybe a Suzuka or a Brazil or something. These tracks might suit Mercedes a little bit more than others have, but they're not quite Zandvoort, they're not quite Budapest in terms of purpose-built, really high downforce circuits. And Singapore's an interesting one because, as Russell says, on paper, Singapore should suit our car, right? A higher downforce track where Mercedes have generally been better. But as he says, when you look back on Monaco and Baku, for example, the car doesn't fare too well over the bumps. When it's bumpy, the suspension of the W13 doesn't like it. They have to raise the right height of the car, cost them downforce in the corners, and they were, of course, way off the pace in both of those races, Monaco and Baku. So that is, really the key concern that they have right now, is that, yes, Singapore on paper, high downforce track, but, if the earlier street races are anything to go by, like, it's not a good one for their car. So that's the key issue that Mercedes continue to deal with, that, like, their car isn't good every weekend. Red Bull's seemingly now is. And Hamilton isn't writing off the chance to beat them, but he's saying it's going to take, some great performances, but also some luck going their way, effectively, to beat Red Bull and Max Verstappen, which makes you wonder how many more races is Verstappen going to win, because he's on 11 as it stands. As I say, he could get up to 17 in a season out of, the 22 that we have, 23 that we have, which is absolutely ridiculous, but you wouldn't necessarily rule it out right now. Every single race for the last few races, it's been like, well, Verstappen's P14, Verstappen's P7, but he's still the bookie's favourite to win the race, and I'm sure that will continue for rather a long time to come. Of course, the focus really now is going to next year. I'm sure that's the case with Red Bull as well. The fact that they know they've got everything locked up, they're going to be looking at next year's car, as I'm sure Mercedes have for quite some time, and that they know that they can't make this car, with the drag that it has and the issues over the bumps and stuff, good enough to be a real championship contender, of course. And it's officially over, right, for them, even mathematically, I think, within a reasonable doubt at least. So, of course, the rules are changing to a certain extent next year. There's the raise of the floor to a certain degree. Is that going to help Mercedes? Who really knows? But that's really, of course, where the focus is for all of the teams at the moment. And just to mention this, given the fact that Verstappen's been dominating the last few races, Leclerc must finish 7th or higher to stop Verstappen winning the championship. I believe it does depend to some degree on what Perez does, and that's kind of assuming that if Max wins and takes the fastest lap, which obviously you wouldn't exactly rule out right now, but I think it does depend on where Perez finishes, because I think there's still a world in which if Perez has a good result in Singapore, that he could technically still be the world champion. But of course, we know how that's going to end up, and we have done for quite some time at this point. Helmut Marko has said that he reckons Max is going to get 14 wins, but even that seems to me to be rather underselling it, right? Red Bull seems to be good everywhere, much better race pace. It's going to take some serious, mess ups, I think, from that team, and also some misfortune if they're not going to win at least 4 or 5 out of the remaining 6, and probably Max Verstappen is going to be the man to deliver it. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, take care, and I'll see you next time.